How do fellas, Nige back here again with another inbox review, and today we're looking at Eduard's Profipack Spitfire Mark 1A. Now in this Profipack we get 7 different markings, okay, of the Spitfire from around the Battle of Britain era. So it's the Mark 1, and we've got some from February and September 1941. But, you know, you get a lot of really nice schemes in this, okay? So, yeah, we'll just get straight cracking. So, as always, we start with Eduard's really nice instruction manual. We get a really good detailed write-up into the intro and about the actual aircraft and its constant development. We then move into the sprue map, and as you can see, there's not a great deal to this kit, okay, but what you do get is really nice. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sprues. One of those would be your clear sprue with all your different canopies. We get some mass for the canopies, and we get some photo etch parts for the cockpit with some seat belts. We've got a colour call out in Aqueous, Mystical, and Mission model paint, as well as what the numbers are, before we then move straight on to the instructions. So the way Eduard do their Spitfires, they build up as a tub, which then attaches inside the actual fuselage. So we start with the 2 walls of the aircraft. We then have the frame, okay, with all the lightning holes on there and the armor plating above the head, which then slots into the main body or the main walls of the fuselage. We then have our control stick, okay, before we move on to the floor. We then have the seats with the different controls on the seats, before putting on the belts, the lap belts and the lightning things. So I think they're for the flares, where your flares sit in, okay, on the aircraft, in either the plastic or the photo etch parts, with then the panel going on the back. And you can see you get 2 options, R12 or P39. So that's either your sprue or your photo etch. We then move on to attaching all that together and putting it into the actual sidewall. We have the photo etch seat belts going together, get 2 parts, okay, and then that one part will then slide through and it'll go over the bottom at the top of this rear frame of the rear at the rear of the cockpit. We have the instrument panel, so we've got the photo etch parts and the plastic part with the gun sight, the controls with again photo etch or plastic, and then you get a side-on view to show you where these parts all go together. We then move over to actually the tub. As you can see, it's all as one there, going into the fuselage. And on the side of the fuselage, you'll have these red bits here, which will then have to remove for a closed canopy. If you're having it open, you don't need to worry about that. And then we've got this bracing bar that goes on top of the frames of the cockpit, the bit for the tail wheel, and then we start building these frames and these bulkheads within the fuselage. Not forgetting to add these little plastic and photo etch parts and remove bits and pieces if you're going to put decals on and stuff like that. We then move on to the lower wing, okay, where it tells you to drill out some of these parts for lights, and we get the wheel wells starting to get built. Okay, so you start off with your forward bulkhead from your wheel wells. We then move on to adding some more parts of the undercarriage, Okay, so we've got these side bulkheads. I don't know what that bit is actually, but I think that bit's like the locking bar, okay, that goes in. The rear bulkheads, okay, a side bulkhead that just sits in there. We then put these circular bits in, which are for the actual wheels themselves. Now, this is a lot more simplified, okay, because this used to be in 3 parts, if I remember correctly, on their later Spitfires. So they're like their Mark 9s and what have you. We've then got the 303 machine guns going into the parts, and obviously you've got your colours coming out, and it shows you how they all sit within the wing. We then have to put the wing and the fuselage together, which it should be a really, really nice solid fit. We've got our control surfaces and our vertical and horizontal stabilizers going on. We have the ailerons and the wingtips going on. So the wingtips will be there for be able to do different versions. Now, the only bit that I personally don't like about Eduard Spitfires is this bit here. So this bit here is for the radiators. Now, on the earlier Spitfires, you only had the one radiator. Okay, the later ones you had 2 because you had one over here. So these fit in really, really nicely into the parts and what have you. What you've got to watch out for is this join, okay, between the bottom and the walls of the radiator. It can be a bit finicky to get if you're not used to it. Now, yes, these do help line it up. So these bits are like the front and back of the radiator. As you can see, they can sit over that. But that bit can be quite fiddly to actually put on. We've then got some more of the little bits of control bits. Okay, so they weren't for lights, those drill out bits. They were for like little maybe aerials or vortexes. We've then got the chin and the little chin radiator going in. We move on to adding some more parts to the radiator. So this is new. Normally, I don't remember these being on their older or later marks as Spitfires. You get a hinge as well, so you can have the actual radiator open or closed, and it shows you there going on. It's going to be a 2-piece wheel with a separate center. Okay, so that makes it really easy to paint. The legs, again, it's normally a really solid fit into the doors. Then add in the main wheels and the tail wheel, and then you get a photo or a picture of how that should look. Okay, so you can see how they're quite narrow with the wheels pointing out, and you can see the collect dihedral of the wings as well, and also a side-on view, so you know where everything goes. We then move on to the release mechanism for the canopy for helping sliding it forward and backwards. We get the opening and closing part for the door, and then we move on to the windshield. So you can see you will have 3 different windshields to put on. Well, not necessarily 3 different ones, but the different reflector sights. So you've got one there that's just a normal like rear view mirror. That one there is like a covered one, more streamlined, and then one without. And then we move on to putting the aerial in with this little insert that goes into the top. We get a fuel filler cap, the exhaust, which another improvement, I hope they keep this up or change it for the later marks of Spitfires, is it just slots straight into the actual place where it's meant to go. And then we've got the different types of spinners that go on, and then there you can see for the closed canopy. We also get a marking or where to actually put your antenna. So for 5 of them, okay, you've got it just coming out of to the port and then through to the tail. And the F and G's, which will be the ones I'm assuming from 1941, which comes from the the radio compartment just behind the pilot to the tail, where we can put all our masks, and then we can move on to the interesting bit. So March 1940, so just as this is sort of like in the phony war period, so the Germans started invading Norway around this sort of time, okay, before they then moved on to France. So early scheme with the black and white underside, no markings or roundels actually on the lower wings, and just a really simple one on the fuselage. We then move to the next one, June 1940. So June 1940, we are looking at the Battle of France sort of period. These aircraft would have flown over Dunkirk and all that sort of stuff while the evacuation was going on. And again, you can see the bottom is black and white, with the lower and forward fuselage being silver. But this time we've got markings underneath the wing, and then the bigger roundel with the bigger lettering actually on the fuselage. August 1940, so right in the middle of the Battle of Britain. Again, we have the overall green brown camo with the duck egg or sky on the belly, the big letter A on the nose, and the bigger, the smaller roundel, the type A1 I think it is roundel with the lettering, and just the B roundels on the upper wing. And we move on to again August 1940. So again, a different makeup this time again of the roundels and where they go. Lower wings, same colour scheme all over, and the writing. Moving on to September 1940. So again, different type of roundel, different larger lettering on the side, and again we've got the lower smaller A-type roundels actually on the lower wings. Then we move on to February 1941. Gone back to the black one side, okay, again a smaller roundel with the grey lettering with the sky band on the back. The lower fuselage, lower wings now have two roundels, one with yellow round. And then we move on to September 1941, where we have got the grey and green camo now. The same roundels as before, but the belly is all medium sea grey. And we've got the larger A1 or A roundels on the underwings again. And then we move on to all the stencil details. So then we've got the stencils, okay, the walkways, and all that sort of good stuff. So that's the instructions. Lovely instructions there. It is wrapped into the main sprues that are wrapped in two plastic bags. So we'll start with those first. We'll start with the lower wing, and as you would expect for an Eduard kit, you are going to get tons of really fine, lovely detail all the way across this kit. Okay, really nice. And if we turn it over, we've got some nice rivet detail in the, there you are, in the wheel wells with this ladder type framing as well. We have the pilot seat. So this bit here, okay, can be changed for the photo etch, or you could just drill that out. Pilot seat, some nice cushion work there, or we've got another one there. See that one? Okay, no cushions, but again, some really nice, if I can get it into so you can see it. Oh, there you are. So you can see the nice root details. The two spinners, okay, One a wider spinner, one a narrower spinner. And then we have the fuselage. And the fuselage, again, same as the wings. Some really nice, lovely rivet detail. As well as hinge detail on this radio compartment. You can just see it. And this is its raised and recessed details. So that's really interesting. So the ones that go vertically, the majority of them are all raised, and some are. So the one that's really cool. So some of these, okay, the ones that are horizontal are all recessed. The ones that are vertical, okay, are all raised. Now the only problem that being, let's have a look, see what's. No, there's no raised rivets around the top or the belly of the fuselage. So when you join those together, you are not going to lose that detail because it's not there. Now I don't know whether it's there on the real aircraft or not, but no, that's a nice touch. That's gonna, if you can get the decals bedding down really nice, that's gonna show off that really well. And then inside we've got the upper part of the cockpit, as you can see. This part here is the radio bit, okay, the radio shot. So you can cut that out, and you should be able to get a brassing set for the radio compartment. Now we're moving on to a lot of the smaller parts. So we're looking at the cockpit, the control surfaces, and all that sort of stuff. So first up, we have the cockpit part. So there you have the two cockpit walls and the framings, the different types, all in there. Parts of the control surfaces, not controls, controls in the cockpit. Some really fine, nice detail for all the switches and levers, the foot pedals, the control yoke, going all the way along. Some really nice detail in there. Again, like I said, you can see on these parts here how these are not drilled all the way through, but that's an easy thing for you to do if you want that added realism. All the way down to the fuel cap that's got some nice, you're not going to be able to see because it's really small, but some nice rivet detail. We have the exhaust stacks, and they are all drilled out, so to add that to that realism, and so are all the cannons. So really spectacular moulding here. So we'll switch it over to the wheel wells. So the wheel wells there, you can see they've all got raised rivet detail. So again, some really nice detail there. And we move on to the control surfaces, the nose and the radiators. So start off, we've got the fabric covered tail control surfaces. Again, some really nice detail on there with the raised tape, and then it's got like a, I don't know whether it's a metal strengthening bar across there for the control surfaces. And same on there, okay, so you can just see on there, and the rivets. Moving on to the wing tips. Turn it over, and we can see the rivet detail on the real control surfaces and on the wheel wells, doors, the radiator parts, the nose. That's more of the radiators. And over here, all the way down to that little insert for the antenna. So no loss of any detail. The only downside is there's no weight on wheels for this aircraft. They're all one part. Okay, so they'll stand up lovely with the different center hubs. Another thing I'm not particularly keen on, if I'm if I'm brutally honest, is this two-part for the tail wheel. It can be a little bit finicky if you don't know what you're doing. Now, I've built quite a few Spitfires, so I'm not going to say I know what I'm doing, okay? But they do supply you with a whole one as well. So next up, we have the photo etch, and I'm not going to get it out of the packet. It's normal Eduard photo etch, some really, really nice printing detail. The best way to get the realism out of the seat belts and what have you is when you take them off there, make sure you find them and then just bend them. So you put a bend in them, make them look more fabricy. They're going to be heavy fabric because they have to save stop the pilot from getting a massive jolt. Okay, we have our two armor platings. Again, I'm not going to take this out. This is just for the canopy mass. Okay, made with kabuki tape. Moving on to the clear parts, and I'm not envisioning any problems with these. And again, Eduard have not let me down. Okay, so all over these clear parts you have rivet detail on the frames. It's wonderfully clear, crisp molding, and the attachment parts aren't too big, so really, really nice. Last but not least, we have the decals. Now, I don't know when these decals were printed. It says 2020, so these could be the older or the newer type. We won't know until we have a look. And looking at these, if I'm brutally honest, I believe these are the newer type because, let's see if I can get something and show you. If we have a look at that S, just line shine on it, you see how it's all square and what have you. Eduard of old, these would all be really, really close around it. Okay, we can see the L. See how it's all the way around, so it's got that massive amount of carrier film. So I believe these are the newer type of decals. I have not used any of these as yet, so I don't know what they're like. So it's a case of once I get around to them. I mean, they look really nice in register. Okay, but until I get around to actually using them, which I probably will with the stencil data. Okay, so we have walkways, but those walkways I will probably paint. I will probably cut the walk round off these bits here. It'll be these bits, okay, that I will have to look at, and these bits here, okay, they are probably, I can't remember whether the walkways or whether they're underneath. Okay, so these are the bits where I will find out what they're like. So that's Eduard's Mark 1 Spitfire, one of the many different ones they've fetched out. And all in all, it's an Eduard Spitfire. You're not going to have any problems with this build, and it will look absolutely spectacular once done. And for, I can't remember how much this was, but for about 30 quid, you actually get a really, really top drawer kit with some photo etch and some canopy mass. So you can't really say fair on that. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.